All right, so HTML headings. It says HTML headings are titles or subtitles that you want to display on an image. So we've already gone through H1, H2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It says try it yourself. And sure enough, H1, H2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Notice that these are inside the body. And when we run it, this is what shows up. It says HTML headings are defined with the H1 to H6 tags. H1 defines the most important heading. H6 defines the least important heading. Okay, so um, same exact thing. They have the code right there below again. Am I misreading that? No, they have the same thing twice. So it just shows the code there, right? Of having H1 start tag and then H1 end tag. It says browsers automatically add some white space, a margin before and after a heading. So if you look at it, notice that there is some white space before and after the heading there. Okay. Um, Search engines use the headings to index the structure and content of your web pages. Users often skim a page by its headings. It's important to use headings to show the document structure. H1 headings should be used for main headings, followed by H2 headings, then the less important H3, and so on. Okay, so going back where it says users often skim a page by its headings. If a user is going to a web page, things that are big, right, are typically noticed a lot easier. Use HTML headings for headings only. Don't use headings to make things big or bold, right? Um, and we'll give some examples. So it says each HTML heading has a default size. However, you can specify the size for any heading with the style attribute using the CSS font size property. Okay, so you have the style attribute and then the font size property. Okay, let's try it out. Let's see what this looks like. Okay, that looks a lot bigger, right? So H1 attribute and then this font size property. So maybe I say font size, let's make it 100 pixels. See what that looks like. Huge, right? Let's say 20, right? So that allows you to change the font size. But H1 should be the biggest. And when you look at this, one thing to note is have it inside quotation marks, font size separated by a hyphen, or by a hyphen. This colon here separating 20 pixels px, and then the semicolon to close it. Plus there is another quotation mark. Okay, very important to note there. Okay, HTML exercise. It says use the correct HTML tag to add a heading with the text London. Okay, so I'll say H1 London, and then we'll close it. Should this be H1 slash? Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know why I was thinking just H. Okay, and let's see if we're right, and submit it. Correct. Moving on to exercise 2. It says add 6 headings to the document with the text hello. Start with the important heading, the most important heading, the largest, and end with the least important heading, the smallest. Okay, so I have H1, and it will say below. And then I'll close H1. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste it once, twice, all the way down there. Okay. H2, H3, H3, H4, 4, 5, 5, 6, and 6. Okay. So my H1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's submit. Correct. Okay, next exercise. It says mark up the text with the appropriate tags. Universal Studios Presents is the most important heading. Okay, we'll do that. And then close it. Jurassic Park is the next most important heading. H2. And then we'll close H2. About is the third most important, so we'll say H3. And we'll close H3. The last sentence is just a paragraph. So put it inside of P and we'll close it. There you go. Okay. We'll submit this, submit answer, correct. 3 out of 3. Good stuff. Okay, completed those. And then just a reminder, we've gone through all this already, but it just reiterates a lot of the stuff in the beginning. Okay. So that is HTML headings. Now on to HTML paragraph. It says a paragraph always starts on a new line and is usually a block of text. The HTML-P element defines a paragraph. Paragraph always starts on a new line, and browsers automatically add some white space or a margin before and after a paragraph. Okay. So it says you cannot be sure how HTML will be displayed. Well, before I get in that, right? Paragraphs, we've done this before in previous lessons. If you're just joining in this lesson, go back and watch the others because we've already done this before. It says HTML display, you cannot be sure how HTML will be displayed. Large or small screens and resized windows will create different results. That's always confusing. With HTML, you cannot change the display by adding extra spaces or extra lines in your HTML code. Okay. The browser will automatically remove any extra spaces and lines when the page is displayed. Okay. So once again, with HTML, you cannot change the display by adding extra spaces or extra lines. So this paragraph contains a lot of lines in the source code, but the browser just ignores it. This paragraph contains a ton of spaces, a lot of spaces in the source code, but the browser ignores it, right? It took out all these spaces here. The number of lines in a paragraph depends on the size of the browser window. If you resize the browser window, the number of lines in this paragraph will change. Right, so look, see how it automatically changes there on the right, which is smart because you don't want things to be static. All right, HTML horizontal rules. The HR tag defines a thematic break in an HTML page and is most often displayed as a horizontal rule. Okay. The HR element is used to separate content or define a change in an HTML page. Okay, it gives us this example right here where we have H1, this is a heading, this is heading 1, and the paragraph, this is some text. HR, okay, it's a thematic break in the HTML page and most often displayed as a horizontal rule. This is a heading 2. This is some other text. Let's try it. Okay. So it like breaks it. HR horizontal rule breaks all that up right there. Okay. Go ahead and close out of that. Okay. The HR tag is an empty tag, just like BR for break, which means that it has no end tag. HTML line breaks. The HTML BR, I just literally mentioned this, the break element defines a line break. Okay. Use BR if you want a line break or a new line without starting a new paragraph. Okay, so it says this is BR, a paragraph with line breaks. Let's try it. This is a paragraph with line breaks. So even if I added another one in here, right, BR just gives you a line break. This is let's put one after every single word, right, with line breaks. Right? This is a paragraph with line breaks. Okay, so that's BR for break. The BR or break tag is an empty tag, which means it has no end tag. The poem problem. This poem will display on a single line. Okay, it says in HTML, spaces and new lines are ignored. So even though you tried spacing it out with a paragraph, it didn't do what you wanted it to do. Okay, so what you would have to do is you would have to actually put the breaks in. And going in and creating those breaks. Now if you run it, notice it does kind of what you wanted to do in the first place, right? So the breaks helped it out at the end of each. Okay. It says this solution. So they're giving me a different solution to my break example. So that was an example. If you wouldn't have read ahead, you would have thought, oh, I can just use the break tag. But let's say you don't want to have to worry about putting in all those different lines. You can use the pre element. The HTML pre element defines pre-formatted text. The text inside a pre element for pre-formatted is displayed in a fixed width font, usually Courier, and it preserves both spaces and line breaks. Try it yourself. Okay, so this has pre. Now, check this out. If I would have right after this, right, maybe I put a paragraph and I close it and I put all those same lines in. And you put in your line break here, line break here, break here, and let's put another break in here. We don't need that last break, I guess. Right? Notice that with the breaks, it didn't like notice the pre-formatted, it indented it, like someone added those spaces in there. The pre-formatted does whatever you want. Like I actually add those, you don't have to add in all the breaks. You can just pre-format it when you put it in there. So that's what the pre element does. Okay. HTML exercises. It says use the correct HTML tag to add a paragraph with the text hello world. So I'll add a paragraph. I'll say hello world, and then I will close it. Submit. Oh, what do I do? Use the correct to add a paragraph with the text. Oh, exclamation point. Whoops, didn't see the exclamation point. Silly mistake. Okay, clean up this document with proper end tags. Okay, H1 start, tag. I need an H1 end tag. This has a P start tag, needs a P end tag. Submit. Done. This says add a horizontal rule. So I did that before by writing HR inside my less than and greater than HR horizontal rule. Submit. Well done. Next one. It says add a line break. We're able to add line breaks by BR. Okay. My Bonnie lies over the ocean. Submit. Correct. Wrap this poem around HTML tags that will preserve all spaces and line breaks. So this is the pre-formatted. So I'll say pre and then close pre. Start, end, pre-formatted allows me to do that. Correct. Sweet. All right. It says HTML tag reference. W3Schools, this tag reference contains additional information about HTML elements and their attributes. Okay. For a complete list of HTML tags, visit our HTML tag reference. I'm pretty sure we've seen that already before. Yeah, we've gone through this and already looked at it, but we're not going to go into detail. I'm sure the more that we go through this, the more we'll learn about, but we're not going to go through this right now. It's a little too advanced. So the ones we went through today, we have P for paragraph, HR for horizontal rule, BR for break, and pre for pre-formatted. Okay. And that is HTML paragraphs. All right. HTML styles. It says the HTML style attribute is used to add styles to an element such as color, font, size, and more. So briefly touched on this before, but we'll go into more in depth here. It says style here. Look, we have inside quotation marks color, colon, and then the color followed by a semicolon, and then close quotation marks. Okay, so I am normal, I am red, I am blue, I am big. Okay, so in this one example, it gives font size, color. Okay, these are all different things we can change with the style attribute. Okay, so style, color, blue. Maybe well, first I'll do one at a time. I'll let this go through. Okay, the HTML style attribute. Setting the style of an HTML element can be done with the style attribute. The HTML style attribute has the following syntax. Okay, so whatever the tag name is, the style attribute, and then the property value. Okay, give them followed by the semicolon. A property is a CSS property. The value is a CSS value. And we'll learn more about CSS later on in this tutorial. And later, eventually we'll get to the point where we have an entire class in CSS. So just as a reminder, we're doing all the HTML, then we're going to go to CSS and then on to JavaScript. But the property is a CSS property. So, going back to it, looking at this a little bit more, right? If I wanted to add another one, right? Maybe I'll say P style equals, and I'll change the color to green. Yeah. And then close it. Say I am green. Close the paragraph out. Okay, so if we run it, I am green. All right, going back. So background color. The CSS background color property defines the background color for an HTML element. Okay, so style, background color, powder blue is used. So this changes the background color. Let's see if I can change this to something else. Powder blue. Maybe I'll change it to yellow and run. It's bright. Oof, there's my eyes. Um, Originally it was powder blue. I wonder if there's like a light blue. I wonder if that's one. Oh, there you go. Light blue. See, I'm just making me, I don't know if these are right. Light green. There you go. Okay, so you can change that. It says body style and then what I'm changing about it. So once again, this happens in, if you go back here and look at this again, right? The body is stylized. The entire body of the entire page there is all then that color light green. Okay. Some background color for two different elements. Okay, for the H1 style, I guess I'll click on it, right? For the H1 style, we said background color powder blue, but then for the background color for everything else, right? We changed it to tomato. Okay, interesting. And I wonder what happened if I did, see what happens if I do this. Style, whoops, style equals, we'll say background color, um, light green, and then close it. See what happens. And then look, everything that isn't, so the whole background color is light green, and then this H1 overrides it and says, hey, whenever I have the H1 heading, have it like this. Okay, so the H1 style is powder blue. Okay, the background color is powder blue, and this one's still tomato. All right, so the background color. Moving on to text color. It says the CSS color property defines the text color for an HTML element. And it gave us an example there. So I had style color blue. This is a heading. This is a paragraph. So color red. Maybe I'll add another one. And I'll say color yellow. This is another paragraph. Super bright. Can't even read it. Okay, the font family. The CSS font family property defines the font to be used for an HTML element. Okay, so we're able to style it font family Verdana and then font family Courier. Okay, so we're able to put that together there and notice that we changed each one. This is a heading. It's in the H1 tag. Let's see if I just, if I didn't end up styling it and just wrote, this is H2 and run it. Just looks like that. Okay. So I have my font family. We've talked text color, fonts. So text color was color. Background color was background hyphen color. And fonts was font family. So text size, so your font size, it's a percentage. So I can style it 300%, 160%. This is how we would set the font size, a percentage. Text alignment, CSS text align property defines horizontal text align for an HTML element. So once again, text align
text align, font size, font family, color. These are all different properties. Okay. So text size, text align, we go to here. Notice it's centered. Text align, center. Text align, center. Centers it. Okay, so we went through a bunch of these right here. It says use the style attribute for styling HTML elements, and then all of these properties, background color property, the color property for the actual font color, for the actual font that you're using, you do font family, font size for the text size, and then text align in order to put it center, left, right. Let's see if we were to play with that a little bit more, right? So if I say align right, it goes all the way to the right side of the page. And even if I make it bigger, right, this still is centered. And then the centered heading is on the right over there. I'll say, it says centered heading. I'll say right heading, right, centered. Maybe just to add one more. Maybe I'll copy this. And I'll say left. Right. There you go. Some exercises. Let's go ahead and I'll click down here where it says start the exercise. It says use the correct HTML attribute in CSS to set the color of the paragraph to blue. Okay, so the color of the font. So this would be style. And this was color :blue. Let's run it. Correct. Okay, use CSS to set the font of a paragraph to Courier. So it says style. Okay, so this one, if we look back as a reminder here, this one was font family, right? So font hyphen family. So font hyphen family. Submit answer. There you go. It says use CSS to center align the paragraph. Okay. So once again, looking back here, when we looked at text alignment, it was text align. So I'll say text align, center, submit, and there we go. Okay. Use CSS to set the text size to 50 pixels. Look back here, text size was font size. Okay. So font, submit. There we go. Next one, use CSS to set the background color. Okay. Looking back here, once again, the text color was the font color, but background color was background hyphen color. So, whoops, background hyphen color. Submit. There you go. Use CSS to center align. Okay. So body style text align. Whoops. Text align center. Okay. Remember that when we went to text aligning, right? We had text hyphen align. If I submit it, correct. All right. Good stuff with that. All 6 exercises completed. We went through all those exercises, and that was HTML styles.